Hello and welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. I'm Captain Rick Riles. Hey, we're going to have a lot of fun this afternoon. Here's what we're going to do. First off, we're going to take a trip over to Costa Rica real quick. Just bear with me for a minute. I got to get my billfish fixed and find out. I heard they've had a red-hot blue marlin bite out of Nosara, and I want to check with Craig Sutton and see if that indeed is true. Then we're going to come back and we're going to work our way around the state. Now, I'm not only going to ask the guys about their fishing tonight, but I want to ask them something else, too. I've got a question for them this evening. You know, the problem with being a guide is you are so busy having to produce fish for people every day, you get precious little time to concentrate on new fisheries and what might be out there and how you can try. Your customers, they want to take home their fish, and you don't blame them, or they want to catch fish and release them, but isn't there something that you're itching to try? And the only reason I say that, for me, it's offshore flounder. I know we've got tons of offshore flounder off Northeast Florida because the divers bring them in all the time. But the problem with fishing for them is the little fish, the little sea bass, the grunts, the everything that chews up a good flounder bait before the flounder gets there. Gotta be a way to do it. I've got to take the time to figure it out. Hey, Florida Sportsman's Action Spotter tonight is brought to you, as it is every week, by Yamaha. Reliability starts here by Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum. Oh, it's the best chum on earth, all right. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream billfish destination. By D.O.A. Lures, the unfair advantage. By Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrids? Check out youngboats.com. By the Castaway Hat Co. That's the hat that's helping save our seas. And by Academy, Sports and Outdoors. The right stuff, low price, every day. Let's get rolling. Let's take a quick trip to Nosara, Costa Rica. First stop this evening, where we always start, in Nosara, Costa Rica, to check in with our man Craig Sutton. Craigie, how's the blue water fishing?
Man, it's been good, Ricky. It's been real good. The bite's still continuing. I hope it continues all the way through this month. We did get a little rain last night and a little bit this afternoon, but we got our fishing trips off, and the bite's been good.
Good. What are you catching?
Last couple of weeks.
Marlin. Sweet.
A lot of marlin.
Sweet.
Some decent mahi. I haven't got any giants in the last week, but, lots of yellowfin. But, again, no real giants. I think we caught one they said was probably 80. I think it's probably 60 or 70. Nice fish, but no of the big giants.
Well, I tell you what, that's okay. The guys in Northeast Florida said to tell you to just shut up, all right? We haven't seen a yellowfin in years, so you can just shut up, all right?
Well, and how about those big mahi we've been catching?
This
has been, just an amazing year on big mahi, and I think that maybe, I don't know, but, last year we caught, I want to say, 5 yellowfin over 200 between the end of May and the end of August. This year we've got a couple over 100, but definitely not 5 over 200. But we're getting all these big mahi, so it's you take what the ocean gives you and be happy.
Yeah, you do, and you listen to somebody as smart as a Mitch Roffer who said, "Look, currents change, and when they change, that school of fish that's been visiting you every year is now over in Africa or somewhere." I mean, it just, things, the one thing we know about the ocean, Craigie, you ever been on the same ocean twice? No, me neither. No, it's never been the same twice, and that's why I'm so thoroughly hooked on it. But that's, I think, hey, I got a quick question for you, and we got to keep it quick. All right, you ready for this?
Okay. Yes, sir.
You spend your time fishing off Northeast Florida, pulling ballyhoo and blue water, and you spend your summer pulling pogies and ribbons on the beach, right?
Yep.
Is there a fishery around here that you are dying to explore, but you haven't taken the time?
Well, I think our tarpon fishery here is world class, and it just seems like I'm focused on something else. But, and I was telling my mate yesterday when we were fishing on the beach, I said, in a couple weeks when we get through all these kingfish tournaments, let's take a couple trips and just focus on tarpon fishery.
Well,
I mean, back when I was real young, we used to fish for them all the time, but there wasn't that many around.
You think there's more around now than there were then?
Oh, heavens, yeah.
Oh, my gosh, Craigie, we caught a lot of tarpon back in the day now.
Ricky, you haven't been in the
Chum
hole in the last few years. I mean, I'll never forget, year before last, in August, we went and got pogies off Hannah Park, and the tarpon were everywhere. They were crushing the pogies. And we ran out of bait about 12 o'clock. I said, let's go get that, another batch of pogies and fish, somewhere else, right? And the point I was trying to make, I said, I bet those tarpon aren't still feeding in there. We got back at 12:30, 1 o'clock, and they were still crushing them, absolutely crushing them. And I've seen them several times in the last 2 years in the Chum hole in that washout area, stacked up like cordwood. So I don't ever remember that when I was a kid. And, I was a John Campbell and Wimpy Sutton fan when I was a kid, but I don't think there's many tarpons there now. I mean, I saw several yesterday.
I'll be darned. That's cool. That's cool. Well, if you try, you got to let us know how you did. Thank you, Craig. Please bring us another report next week.
Absolutely. Be looking forward to it.
Craig Sutton from Nosara. Now, let's hit Florida up in the northeast corner. Captain David Voorhees. How are you, David?
I want to go to Costa Rica.
Oh, man, me and you both. August is our month, buddy. We were there last year. Yep.
Yeah, I know. But let me tell you what's going on up here, Ricky. We had a little bit of cold water come in from the ocean. Something I think we've been expecting. We've had a northeast wind blowing the last couple of days, which sort of muddied up the water a little bit. But to drop that water temperature, it's real funny. I get funny looks when I tell people about cold water in August. It's almost an oxymoron, and people look at me like I'm crazy. But it actually dropped to 79 degrees up in the where the Intercoastal and the St. Johns River meet. So that's about a 4 to 5 degree water temperature, and sometimes that can it can make the fishing a little tougher than normal. I talked to some guys that's fishing more up around the Fort George area, and they've been struggling, and guys that fish in the jetties and around the river and stuff like that. And I keep asking them, are you checking the water temperature? And they look at me like, what is that? What is that? And I'm telling you, my biggest tip for people, really keep an eye on that water temperature. So I've moved all the way down by the JTB bridge, right around the Duval, St. Johns County line, and I'm finding 83-degree water temperature and plenty of redfish chewing along the bank.
Now, David, it seems to me like the reason that would be better down there is because it's away from any inlet. The seawater, which is cooler, is not getting pushed in, right?
Doesn't get pushed in. It is one of the further points. Now, when you're north of the St. Johns River, of course, you've got the Fort George Inlet. You got Nassau Inlet, which is a very big inlet. If you actually look at it, it's a pretty big inlet. A lot of water comes in and out of there. So you're going to get that colder water north of the St. Johns River as opposed to south of the St. Johns River along that intercoastal. And the flounder have been phenomenal. Had some nice ones this week. The flounder bite continues to be strong and good. Actually, I consider it right now my number 2 fish, above the trout. So we've been seeing plenty of, 3 and 4 pound flounder.
Ooh,
which,
good. Ooh,
man,
that's good fish.
Yeah, really nice, really nice. The shrimp are still thick, plenty of bait. It's amazing we're even able to catch fish with this much food in the water. And reports have it that the night fishing has really been good along the lights, under the lights and on the docks and stuff like that. Plenty of good trout under there.
Hey, David, I got a question for you. Okay?
Yep.
When redfish tournaments first came out, and my first thought was, well, David Voorhees will win the first one, Tony Vizzello will win the second, Larry Minyard will win the third. I thought you guys that were chartered every day would dominate that. But what I learned was you don't get time to explore new fisheries. I mean, you've got to produce fish for people every day, right?
Exactly. And I had a sort of something happen to me one time, and somebody called me and they were trying to book Larry, and they said, well, we couldn't get a hold of Larry because he's doing a tournament. And that's when the light bulb went off in my head. It's like, you know what? I don't want any of my clients to call me and I'm not able to take my really good clients out or not be available for them because I'm out doing a tournament. So I decided many, many years ago, I'm either going to be a charter captain or a tournament fisherman, and I chose to be a charter captain.
It's hard to be both, but my point was this. Is there a fishery or a new is there something you're dying to explore and you don't have time because when you're on the water, you have to produce fish for those people?
Well, Rick, I touched on something, and I'm glad you brought this up because I talked to some guys at the boat ramp today, these guys I know, and they're out fishing all the time. I see these guys on the water 4 and 5 days a week. They're not charter captains. One guy said, I've been fishing it. He lives in the sailboat out there. He lives in one of those sailboats that's out there. And he said he's hearing snook busting at night. Now, I believe that because people who hear snook at night, there's a big difference.
Yep.
It's a
sound.
snook.
Yep.
And, Rick, up here, every snook I've ever caught up here has been caught in the daytime. And I've caught over 100 snook up here in Northeast Florida. And they've all been caught at daylight. And I used to think, why don't we? And I've done a lot of night fishing. It's like, why don't I catch these snook at night? This guy said they've been catching some big ones at night. I'm looking forward to going out one night and seeing if I can find some snook that are feeding at night.
That's a great one, and I get your point, and I think you're headed in the right direction. My latest obsession is I'm watching these divers, and a lot of them are buddies of mine too, that are bringing in limits of flounder every time they dive. All right? It's hard to flounder fish off Northeast Florida. We've got so many little sea bass, little, grunts, little tiny vermilions that tear a bait up. So I'm thinking I would love to have the time to figure out, because I've done some diving, and I know that flounder lay off of the wreck. They're not huddled over the wreck like the other fish are. How far do I need to get off? And if I throw a big plastic, David, will that work? And the answer is, I don't know, but that's the latest thing I've got stuck in my craw that I'm dying to try. Buddy, I appreciate it as always. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
All right, Ricky, I'll be here for you, buddy.
Captain David Voorhees, we appreciate you so much. Time to move down to East Central and find out what Jim Ross is up to. But first, let's hear from the Castaway Hat Company. I'll bet you don't even remember the days that all us cool kids would rub baby oil mixed with iodine to help us get even darker in the summertime. Being burnt was cool, and even if you weren't a surfing legend, you sure looked the part. Oh man, have we paid the price for our vanity. We never knew the skin problem and health damage that awaited us when we were sunburned. Today's fishermen have the option of being so much healthier in the sun than we ever thought of, thanks in no small part to Castaway Hat Company, which not only provides our podcasters with Castaway straw hats, but they make the coolest prints on the underside of the brims you ever saw. You may think your Bimini top or T-top blocks the sun, but as an awful lot of SOGs can tell you, you can't have enough protection from sun damage. Do what we do. Put on the sunblock and put on your Castaway straw hat. You'll look the part of today's best anglers, and you'll even be helping the environment. That's because for each Castaway hat sold, the Castaway Company will pay to have 1 pound of trash removed from our waterway. We need that. Hey, go to CastawayHatCo.com and get your best sun protection today. Hey, I'm not sure who first coined the phrase, the only thing saltwater can't destroy is saltwater. Well, you know what that meant to the engineers at Shimano? That sounded like a challenge, and their response is now on the shelves of Strike Zone Fishing. The new spinning reels are called Twin Power, and they feature the Infinity Drive, which means there's not a fish around they can't stop. That's because of their new heat sink drag. That means a wahoo tuna can run just as fast and far as they want. You never have to worry about your drag heating up. Even better, the new Twin Powers are built to become the best reels ever at fighting saltwater intrusion. Listen, everybody's heard or experienced the problems with seeing the latest and greatest that is finding ads actually on the shelves of your local tackle shop. Well, I'm here to tell you that Shimano's partnership with Strike Zone means that you can always count on finding the latest and greatest fishing tackle lining the shelves of both Strike Zone locations. Our thanks to David Voorhees for a great Northeast Florida report. Now, here we go down to my favorite fishing village to visit one of my favorite people there, Captain John Earhart. John, how are you?
I'm good. Glad to be here, Rick.
I'm mighty glad to have you, buddy. Tell me about the fishing off Stewart this week.
It seems like the sail fishing has kind of slowed down a little bit. I mean, we're still seeing a couple here and there, but you definitely have to put the time in. And we just fished the traditional Bonita Blast tournament, so I'm pretty certain we cleared all the Bonitas out of Stewart. So
I think you missed a few. I think you missed a few, John. I don't think you got them all.
Well, we did get a lot of them, so you won't have as many to Bonita to contend with when you're fishing for sailfish and 90 to 160 feet, which is pretty standard this time of year. There's been a little influx of mahis, not big ones, but they've been 24, 28-inch mahi, big enough to keep, and enough for a few mahi sandwiches. So that's been kind of a nice filler fish in between sail bites. And as usual, the snapper fishing's been pretty top notch this week. We're getting a lot of mutton snappers, 50 to about 90 feet of water, fishing a long leader with a live sardine, and it's been pretty easy to catch a limit of mutton snappers this week. So I mean, if you're not doing real well on the surface, I certainly would find a nice spot on the 6 Mile Reef somewhere and drop some live baits down, and you certainly will bring home some snapper for dinner.
Oh, that's excellent. You can't hardly beat that with dinner, that's for sure. John, I was down there just before the full moon, and I think they did it a little bit. We hung in there till 11 o'clock. I guess it was last Wednesday now, but rough. Oh, my goodness, it was rough. And we got 4 sails. Saw a few more, so I think the full moon in August may have been better than the full moon in June this year.
Yeah, it seemed like that day you were down fishing, and then a couple days after that, I saw several boats catch like 6 to 8 sailfish. So it seemed like we had a good little flurry, and that may have been the last summer run of sails, but I'll keep fishing hard for them right up until the end of August and sometimes even into September. It's just, if those greenies are around, the sailfish aren't going to be far behind. So as long as those bait fish stay around, there's going to be a few sailfish to catch. You just got to make the time and get out there, and you're going to catch them.
All right, I got a question for you. You've been fishing Stewart for a long time now, and you fish, of course, John being a charter boat captain, like about all our podcasters are, he has to produce fish for his clients every day. What fishery do you suspect is probably available off Stewart that really doesn't get fished very much, that you are just itching to do some exploring in?
Believe it or not, I would say the sheep's head fishing in the wintertime.
Uh-huh.
That used to be something nobody ever wanted to fish for, and it seems like it's really gaining popularity in our area. And I mean, there's days when I go out, Rick, and we could catch 100 sheep's head if I have the bait for them.
Wow.
I certainly don't want to clean that many sheep's head, but they're pretty plentiful when they come in to spawn in the wintertime here in Stewart. So like, if you're not sail fishing and it's too rough to get out there, that sheep's head fishery is pretty awesome.
Are they offshore or are they inshore?
But they're mostly inshore, but they do come in from offshore too. When they come through, I mean, they're on the nearshore reefs, they're on the inshore part of the river around docks, seawalls, bridges. I mean, you can't hardly get away from them.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I had some experience with that fishing just north of Fort Pierce. The wind was real hard out of the west, and we didn't want to go offshore, so we grabbed some fiddler crabs and went and hit up the beach a little bit. And let me tell you something. You're right. It's very impressive. There's a huge number of them in. It was around March, I think, when we caught them. But John, thanks for the report. I'm glad to hear you're still picking at the sails, and I'm so glad to hear that your snapper fishing's holding up, even with the sharks and all the people fishing for them. We appreciate it, buddy. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Yes, sir. I'll talk to you next week.
Captain John Earhart from the Chaos in Stewart, Florida. Now, let's check out the mayor of South Florida Fishing himself, Captain Ray Rocher. Ray, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
How are you?
I'm excellent. How's your fishing?
We're just coming in from offshore now, and we had a really good day of reef fishing. Caught a bunch of yellowtails. And just had a great variety on the bottom, and dropped on a wreck on the way home and caught a jack. And that's I think that completed their day. They were done.
Excellent. Ray, it seems to me like almost everywhere you go, if you can stay away from the sharks a little bit, it's actually been a pretty good bottom fishing year, hasn't it?
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
We had shark problems today.
Oh yeah.
We solved that problem with one shark, and it kept them at bay for a long time. And believe it or not, we kept one to eat, and quartered them like I told you the other day.
Right.
And brined them. And for the longest time, I've always thought that once you have one dragging behind the boat, we were bleeding him out on a tail rope. The sharks wouldn't come around, and wouldn't you know it, we had 3 bigger bull sharks come up eating our yellowtails after that with that shark hanging. I was blown away.
That it didn't scare them, did it?
Can't get ahead of them.
Okay, here's my question. All right.
Yep.
First off, if you mahi bit this week, or is that slowed down some?
Yesterday I fished offshore. It was really slow, but today it picked up. A couple boats that went offshore did pretty good, and it cycles like that. It's not abnormal to have a couple slow days and then they push in. Maybe it's the weed that carries them in. But we didn't have a lot of weed yesterday, so that might have a lot to do with fish not being there. Not to say it's 100% connected, but I think the weed obviously supports bait.
Sure.
And life.
Sure.
So,
all right, I got a question for you. It's driving me nuts. Up in Northeast Florida, I'm convinced, in fact, I know because I've talked to so many divers and I dove some myself, but we have a bunch of flounder offshore. But they're very hard to catch because there's so many other fish. There's so many trash fish. But it's a fishery. It's a fishery that I've just got to explore for myself and try and figure it out. Give me your ideas of a fishery that you think exists off South Florida, but you don't get the time to put in to prove it to yourself. Does that make sense?
Yep. Black belly rosefish.
Okay.
And there's several species of deep water fish that just don't get a whole lot of attention because it takes specialized tackle. But once you have that tackle and you pay attention to your recorder, you can find spots. I've done it in the last month. I haven't caught in 79, 80. I spent a bunch of time deep dropping down in Key West and as a mate for Bill Harrison, and we caught a ton of, he called them road snappers because they sold better. And I probably haven't caught 5 since 1980.
Mm-hmm.
And I just dawned on me the other day. I got all this gear, dropping for storage. Let's drop on this hump, and there they were.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
I'll be darned. Black belly rosefish. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
And rudderfish. Some of the guys are catching those too. They call them several different things, but we always call them rudderfish. Big black pompano permit looking thing.
Yeah, let me ask you, are all those deep water fish like that? Because everyone that I catch, and we've done yellow eyes and silkies and all that, they all seem to taste so good.
Shrimp and squid.
Is that why?
I think that's their diet. Yeah, you are what you eat.
Have you found one? Have you found one that doesn't taste good? A real deep water fish?
Nope.
Okay. Outstanding. All right, well, go explore the Rosies. I appreciate it. Thank you, Ray.
Yes, sir. Take care.
All right. Bye. Captain Ray Rocher.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalu marine engine oils.
What?
Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalu full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalu marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha. Reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is the mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to his name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to use second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. Our thanks to Ray Rocher for a great Miami report. Now, we're going to hop across the state and check in with one Steve Dahl over in 10,000 Islands. Steve, how are you?
I'm great, Rick. How are you?
Get ready for this. Yesterday, I was fishing with a jacket on, okay, because I was cold, all right?
Sure.
Catching many jumbo flounders and big sea bass. How about that?
That's crazy.
Isn't that
what do you
crazy?
attribute all that?
The fact that I was at Narragansett Bay in Massachusetts.
There you go. There you go.
Hey, you know, I hate to say it, but those Yankees have got some pretty good fishing up there, Steve.
Yeah, there's some really good fisheries up north. That's for sure. I mean, I think we're a little spoiled down here because we got everything at an arm's length. But there's definitely some good freshwater fishing and some saltwater fishing up north.
Yeah, but here's what won't last. It was slick calm with no current, okay? Just a beautiful day with a little light breeze. Now, that'll hold for about another week, and then they're done.
Yep, that's about it.
How's your fishing been?
You know, it's been pretty good. It's, we're in this late summer. It's probably, the dog days of summer, as, a lot of people call it, and there's reasons for that, but overall, I can't complain. I mean, everything seems to be cooperative. Things seem to be back on track calendar-wise, so I'm hoping that this, another couple of weeks we'll get in that pre-fall pattern, and probably another month we might even see a cold front to kind of help. Temps are starting to come down a little bit, mid-80s as opposed to those high 80s, so things are kind of, we've been behind, it seems like, for about a year and a half on like the calendar, if you will. And we're kind of on par with that. So I'm trying not to jinx it, so it's been pretty good. The inshore bite's been really good. Lots of snook, lots of bait around. The smaller snook are kind of this time of year. A lot of those bigger fish are offshore, but plenty of numbers. That is for sure. Fish up to 30 inches are pretty common right now.
Good deal.
Pilchers are catching most of it. You'll get some redfish here and there, but we're probably a good 60 days away from the redfish really moving in. So it's been good on the inshore side. The offshore side, not hearing much, to be honest with you. I think a lot of the thunderstorms and the severe weather's been kind of keeping some guys at bay. The guys that are getting out are doing really well. This last full moon, the snapper bite was just unbelievable, pretty much all the way through the 10,000 Islands up to Naples. So that was that's a kind of a tried and true for us, that full moon snapper bite. So other than that, it's been we're kind of waiting for this fall pattern to kind of jump in. So
yeah,
it's pretty good.
I wasn't here this morning. I was still up there. I flew in this afternoon, but guys tell me, and I love it. I know you know the feeling. You step outside at daylight that first morning, you're like, whoa, wait, whoa. That's cool. It doesn't last. By 9 o'clock, it's back to 80, 89, 95 again. But you get those you get those few minutes at daylight that just start to feel good to you.
You do. Those cooler boat rides in the morning really, get you jazzed up. That's for sure.
A guide of your caliber is booked about every day he wants to fish, and every day you've got the responsibility of putting fish in the boat for your customers. If if you had time to fish for yourself, as much as you've learned about the 10,000 Islands, what would you like to investigate that you suspect is an unused fishery down there that you'd like to spend some time on?
Oh boy, two things. One of which I talk about all the time here on our conversations weekly, and that's the nearshore fishing, and specifically big snook on those nearshore wrecks and reefs. I think over time with obviously population and tons of kind traffic and quite a few big hurricanes that have hit us, especially in the last 4 years. We had Hurricane Irma kind of buzzsaw change the entire topography and landscape of our region, and we're evolving. Finding seagrass is a challenge, and I think you gotta estuaries are fragile, and we're constantly trying to find new water, and we have a lot of it. That's the beautiful part. But I've explored so much more offshore probably in the last 4 years, and in you can do these in bay boats. I mean, it's a great fishery, a lot of bottom fishing, lots of different species. But the big snook are, there's a good shot, April through September, our biggest snook live offshore. If you look at a lot of our tournaments, that are won, everybody's catching their big 40-inch plus snook offshore. I mean, it's not even a question. So that's something I'd love to do. And the other aspect is I've really learned, we have lots of deeper passes that, funnel through, to the Gulf from the backcountry. And those deeper passes can be 15, 20, 25 feet. And sometimes there's sheer walls, depending on, it's kind of like a river system. And, there could be 15 feet of water right up against a mangrove wall. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those banks I'm finding over the years are undercut, meaning they're, basically a ledge in there. Sure. And everything lives in there. Mm-hmm. And I want to find more of those because that's fun. I mean, that is like flip, if you've ever punched or flipped for bass with real heavy weights and heavy cover, that's what this is like. And I've experimented with some of that stuff, some heavier tungsten weights and soft plastics and skirts. And if you put it in their face, they're going to eat it. And it's a lot of fun.
It's just a lot of work to get to their face, isn't it?
It is. It's probably not something you want to do on a charter,
right.
Or if you got some folks that aren't, well versed in that type of tactic. But if me and a captain buddy or a friend, who's well versed in that stuff, have the day, I love doing that. I'll put a big rod in my hand and just kind of flip those banks and run parallel to the banks, and it's a hoot.
Cool.
It's a lot of fun.
Cool. Great ideas, Steve. Thanks so much. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Oh, I can't wait.
All right. Thank you, Captain Steve Dahl. I appreciate it so much. Now, let's go talk to Captain Greg Stamper, who I understand is waiting on a plate of sushi right now. Is that correct?
That is correct. So we're going to roll through this week's highlights.
Talk to me. What's going on?
All right. So the offshore guys are killing it right now. They're running out pretty far, but they're doing very, very well on everything. They've been doing a lot of black groupers, nice gag groupers. The reds are in a little bit shallower. They're having no problems right now limiting out on these mangrove snappers, mutton snappers, and porgies are starting to show up in our neck of the woods. So they're having a good time out there. One good thing about being out there when it's hot is that water that's 150 feet is not hot.
Right.
So that's right. Where those big fish are, and they're doing very well on that end.
Oh, that's cool. What's going on inshore?
So we do a little combination. The nearshore and the inshore is kind of the same scenario. It's very, very hot. We've been talking about this the last few weeks. If you are starting early and you're in the back bay in the skinny water, you're in big trouble after about 11 o'clock in the morning. The only savior is if you have strong currents. Unfortunately, we haven't had a lot of awesome tides. So if you're going out, go early. But the guys who have done very, very well this week, Rick, and it's not me because I'm not a night owl these days, is those guys who are fishing these lights and these bridges at night. They're doing very, very well. They're catching a lot of snook. They're seeing some redfish on these same lights and other things that move in and out. And the bridges are holding a lot of tarpon. But that all starts to go away as the sun comes up and as things warm up, it gets tough. On the near shore, the tarpon bite is still available. If you want to do that, still call. You've got now, which is only going to get better, believe it or not, until we get cool, which we won't be talking about cool, Rick. You know that, for another month and a half, 2 months. But these tarpon are going to migrate down from the north. They're going to come from the Panhandle. They're going to come from the Tampa area and move south, and that's going to add a whole new fluctuation of different fish, which we'll talk about more. Other than that, the permit bite has still been pretty good. These fish are starting to get a little smaller, a little finicky, and I think hopefully if we can get through another month and a half with this clean water, we're going to see a really good bite moving forward for all these pelagic.
You got a deal, Cap. Go eat your sushi. That sounds like an outstanding report, and we will talk to you next week.
Thanks, Rick. Maybe one of these days I'll make you some.
Come on now. I'll be there. Thanks, Greg. Our thanks to Greg Stamper for a great Southwest report. Let's head up into the Big Bend and check in with the mayor of Homosassa, one William Toney. How we doing, William?
Doing good right down here in downtown, actually Yankeetown, Inglis area this evening, putting up some deer feeders, getting ready for that archery season coming up next month.
Won't be long. Hey, let me ask you, I have been in Massachusetts the last 3 or 4 days. Actually had some excellent fishing up there, but are you starting to feel at daylight just a hint of a chill?
Absolutely. You know what? This morning I ran a half-day charter. We left the dock. We were heading out the river at about 6:45 a.m. And Rick, this is something I see every fall in our area. And it tells me that fall is coming because we got these things called fish crows. And they stay out there in the St. Martin's Keys. And they look like a regular crow, but you got to look in the Audubon book. They are a fish crow. So when they start heading up, they're a different type of crow. I thought all crows were equal, but these are a little different. Got a different caw, they got a shorter beak, shorter legs, and live out in the mangroves. But they come inland to wreak havoc during the day, but when they do, it's always in the fall, and they come in single file right up the river. And this morning was the first time I saw that coming in just as the sun was coming up, right straight up out of the river. Never busted a sweat today. We came in by 11 and had some nice redfish. I saw my first redfish out there, a legit school, and we caught some of them and caught our 5-limit trout for one man today. So, it's just a little bit. It ain't too far away, but, knock on wood, everything's dry in our area on the Big Bend, so looking good for hunting season. Everything seems on par for our schooling redfish. So, it's just a good time of year, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. A little bit of change is coming.
William, I make no bones about the fact that I'm so very proud to consider a 4th-generation Homosassa fishing guide is one of my dearest friends. And with you having been there that long, is there anything about fishing that area that you wish you had time to explore and be better at, or have you got that area just so wired down that there's no frontier on your horizon?
I wish I could say that, Rick, but hey, it's always a learning experience every day. But one fish in the Big Bend area that I always covet and like when I catch them, but I consider it a bycatch, is flounder. I've worked in shrimp boats, and we would get them in the trawls. I've been out one time on a rock out in about 8 foot of water with a sandy bottom around it, and you could see them down there, and actually they would chase your jig up and catch them. They were fools, but that only happened one time in my life. Now, we got guys out here that go snorkeling around some of the rocks and, absolutely get their limit of some nice flounder. We have them in our area. It is one of the fish, though, that I just behooves me. There's no way around it. I just don't know how to catch them. I'm sure there's places around Florida that there are anglers that have it wired. But here on the Big Bend, they've always seemed to be a bycatch, and all the anglers and all the great guides I know up and down from Steenahatchee to here, never one has said, well, I'm the flounder master. But they'll show a nice flounder on their social media, or, when they catch one, they're bragging. So, it's one of those fish that in our area, they're here. It's just targeting them. I've caught them all the way in the backcountry and caught them all the way out in 12 foot of water. So they're all over the board. I just have never figured it out.
But it's funny to me, and we were talking about earlier, that's the fish that haunts me in Northeast Florida, because I know they're all over the bottom offshore because I've seen them diving, And the guys that spearfish a lot here have no trouble spearing their limit of big fish every day they go down. But every time I get out there with flounder bait, here comes a grunt. Here comes a sea bass. Here comes, just this endless parade of what you're not looking for. And I think I've got to figure out how far away from the wreck I need to be to get out of the grunts and into the flounder. And what kind of bait. I'm wondering if a big fish bites or a big gulp or something like that will fool them. And I don't know the answer, but I know I want to spend some time hunting. I also don't know what time of year, because they just seem to be so random, and it's hard to tell. We catch them in the river in the fall. I understand that, and in the early spring. I've got the river fishing down. I just don't have the offshore fishing down.
That's kind of us. I actually watched one chase a gold spoon down one day, and I can only describe it as a wet paper bag being pulled through the water, that flounder chasing that gold spoon. At first I didn't know what it was, and I'm looking, what is this thing chasing it? And I realized what it was. So I've caught them on jerk baits, I've caught them on gold spoons, I've caught them on shrimp and jigs, I've caught them just about any way you can, but never in a consistency to where I can say, hey man, I've got this wired.
Yep. Well, hopefully we'll both figure it out soon. Thank you, William.
We'll see you next week.
Cap William Toney with a great report from the Big Bend area where, boy, if we, I don't want to say the word, but if we can stay away from the big storms this year, man, it's shaping up to be a good fall. Our thanks to William Toney for a great Big Bend report. That means it's Northwest Florida time to put a wrap on tonight's show and talk with Captain Kevin Lanier. Kevin, how are you?
Cap, just peachy, as we would say in South Georgia, South Alabama, North Florida.
Yes, sir. I've heard you use that term a time or two, and I'm glad to hear that you're peachy. What's going on with the fishing?
Well, we're in the August doldrums, and it's funny, the Fish and Wildlife Commission or the Gulf Council asked us in an informal poll if we'd rather have fall fishing or August days, and I think it's been unanimous so far that we'd rather have something in the fall than in August, because all we've been doing is looking for legal size fish here in the last couple of weeks.
So you feel like having so many days this year has made it tougher for you to catch fish in August. Is that right?
Well, we all know that it's difficult around here to get quality fish in the last half of July and first part of August. So that's proven itself true. The nice thing is we get, like today, cobia, some really nice, like we got a couple of really nice red grouper, things like that. So, those are making our trips, and we're getting our red snapper limits. They're all just, 16, 18 inches long. There's not nothing big out there right now.
Now, is that because you've been fishing for them for a while, or is that because of the time of year?
Water temperature.
Water temperature. Yep. Everybody keeps mentioning it's hot, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about 90 degrees now.
Oh, that is hot.
Yep, bath water.
Yep, nothing wants to move in that stuff.
No, it's just like me and you. All we want to do is sit down and have a frosty beverage and enjoy the day.
That's right. I get in a good hot bath. Bring me an iced tea, and I might be there a while. You're exactly right. But it sounds like your fishing's holding up. Are you hearing much from inshore?
Inshore fishing's picked up a little bit. We got some redfish going on. There's been some nice trout caught. We are getting ready, I believe it's tomorrow, to open scallop season. So that's going to squash that a bit, because you got all those boats running around the bay. And that tends to kind of push those fish more out toward the mouths and down on the beaches. But they are catching some quality redfish out there.
Have you heard any reports on the scallop count? Are they seeing plenty?
Apparently they are, because we've heard no negatives. We've heard nothing that's going to slow us down. So it opens up tomorrow. So probably by the weekend, they'll be fairly picked through. So I always tell people, if you're going to scallop here, come the first week.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I got you. All right, Cap, that's an outstanding report. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
We will be here next week, but we will no longer be keeping red snapper. Our season ends on Friday.
Well, all of us on the East Coast want to tell you it's about daggum time.
Well, there's nothing worse than sitting still bottom fishing in August, I tell you.
Kevin, our government, our federal government is honestly considering closing Northeast Florida, the area through here, to all bottom fishing, because when we drop for triggerfish or sea bass, we are catching so many red snapper that it's going to crush the population.
Wow.
Kevin, those are the people in charge.
I got you. I'm with you. I know.
Wait a minute. Now we can't fish because there are too many? I mean, something's wrong here, folks.
Right. You're right. You're right, Captain Rick.
I don't understand everything I know about that. I can tell you that much. Cap, we appreciate it. We'll talk with you next week.
All right. We'll talk to you then.
Captain Kevin Lanier wraps up our trip around the state tonight. Hey, you know what? It's almost fall, and how many of us have been waiting for the magic of the mullet run to start, with literally miles of mullet moving along just about every area of the Florida coastline? What you need to cash in on the tarpon, snook, reds, trout, tarpon, and flounder, and everything else is feeding on the poor fingerlings is the perfect mullet imitation. Well, for my money, skip all the high-dollar made-in-China mullet imitators. For me and all the podcasters I've talked with, the perfect mullet imitation is made right here in Stuart, Florida. It's the D.O.A. Bait Buster. Mark Nichols is the owner and manufacturer of D.O.A. He spent years designing different bait busters to swim shallow, medium, or deep. What makes Bait Buster so special? Well, I think it's the tail. If your bait buster is moving, that tail is flapping. No predator can stand that tail swimming in his face. The D.O.A. Bait Buster, the perfect mullet run bait. Hey, it's been a fun trip, and I really enjoyed hearing what the guys would explore if they had the time to go do it. And it's hard for charter boat captains to take a party and say, hey, we're going to go try something new today. Wait a minute. These people don't want to do that. They've saved up all year to be able to afford this trip with you. They got to be able to fish for something you can count on. So when they get their days off, when they get their time, what kind of fishing would they like to explore? I know for me, it's offshore flounder. It was a shame for William Toney. It's a lot of guys have got different things. Ray Rocher wants to go find more black belly rosefish. It's just putting in the time to do it. But one thing you can count on, we're going to put in the time next week for another Florida Sportsman Action Spotter podcast, which will be brought to you next week and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, always the best chum on earth, all right. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. By D.O.A. Lures, the unfair advantage. By Young Boats, you want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrids, you need to check out youngboats.com. By the Castaway Hat Co, the hats that help and save our seas. And by Academy Sports and Outdoors, right stuff, low price, every day. Until next week, for Florida Sportsman Magazine, I'm Captain Rick Riles, and I'll see you on the rip.